Welcome to Lifeline, where you're going to join the conversation in episode 1, where we take a deep dive into what it's like to move out from your family home and live on your own for the very first time, and also what it's like to have roommates and all the things that go into that. How to navigate, how to understand, and how to be mindful and a little bit more confident whenever you're going through these new experiences. So I wanted to first start off with a little story and kind of get to know me and my views and kind of where I come from in all of this. I was a freshman in 2022, which was literally yesterday, but also a lifetime ago. On move-in day, I was driving to college to check into my very first apartment, and I actually got in a car wreck and it completely totaled my car. I wasn't even upset that I was hurt. I think I was more upset that I knew that it was going to be a setback for me because I was so excited to go and live on my own and do something that was me. And whenever I got in that car wreck, I kind of felt like my plans were just thrown out the window almost. And so I struggled a lot with living on my own for the first month or two. I didn't have a car. I didn't want to drive a car. I was absolutely terrified of driving or just being around highways or anything like that. So that was a definite thing that I had to overcome. And that not also translated into my schoolwork. I had really bad memory. I was barely keeping up with my classes because I was so overwhelmed, not only with moving, but going through all of the things that entailed my car wreck, from lawsuits to trying to get a new car to doctor's appointments and physical therapy. It was a lot that I was not expecting at all. I think now looking back on it, I am not happy that I got in a car wreck, but I am proud of myself to know that I can do hard things and go through difficult times and challenges because I will be able to understand and figure it out along the way. There is no point in me making this grand elaborate plan and then freaking out when it doesn't go my way. That doesn't get you anywhere, pretty much. After I finally made the transition and got all of my car wreck situations dealt with, living with roommates was also a very big shock. We lived all completely different lives. We wanted to be really, really close, but I was doing things because of my wreck and school, and I wanted to join a whole bunch of student organizations and all of those things, while some of my other roommates were very, very focused on academics, trying to get into nursing school, or they had other things going on outside of their lives that, we were all trying to be together and be there for each other, but there was just so many moving parts, and I feel like nobody had prepared me for all of the moving parts that it is when you live with someone else. I'm not coming on here to say that roommates are terrible. I'm just saying that it's a process. I thought that my first roommates were going to be the same roommates that I was going to have all 4 years of college. We were going to be best friends. We were going to do all these things together, and I was really excited about that. But, life had different plans, and we all went our separate ways. However, that led us into the places that we needed to be in. And I think I gave myself an unrealistic expectation to have everything work out. And it's not that you shouldn't have expectations, but you should be willing and flexible when those expectations do have to shift. But now living with my roommate, Madison, who has been an absolute blessing. And she has taught me an exorbitant amount of information and compassion and life skills. I mean, the list could go on forever, honestly. But it's something that both of us, we went through living on our own. And it was really scary at the beginning. And we went through navigating roommates and relationships of that sort. And It was scary, but it put us in a position to now be roommates, and it's awesome. And we wouldn't change it for the world, honestly. I'm so excited to share my conversation with Miss Madison McClure and all of the good advice and knowledge she has. So, Maddie, would you like to introduce yourself at all?
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm Madison McClure. I'm Nita's roommate. And
We love it.
yeah, I've known Nita for about 2 years now, and she's one of my best friends. And I'm so happy to be here today.
Or what year of college are you going into right now?
I just started my senior year.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're getting our rings soon. We're gonna be a part of the ring ceremony, which is absolutely crazy. I feel like time has flown by like so fast. It doesn't even feel real. I just feel like we started freshman year literally like a couple months ago, and then both of us are in a sorority as an Oregon campus, and like we feel like the day was like literally yesterday. And it's so crazy like to be sitting here now and being like, oh, we're ordering our class rings and we have to apply for graduation and like make sure all of our credits are here. Like that's crazy. Like, when you came to college, like did you have any expectations of like college life and like living on your own?
I didn't really know what to expect because originally I had expected to move really far away.
Yeah.
So, unexpectedly last minute, I decided to stay in my hometown but move out into student living. So,
Yeah.
I was anticipating like moving out and being on my own. Yeah, but I still had the comfort of my family around me. So, I don't really know if I like had any like true expectations. I think I was just really excited to like be independent and be on my own.
So I know you didn't really have any expectations or anything like that, but like, were you like confident in yourself to be able to like live alone and outside of like your parents' home?
Yeah, I think from a really young age, I gained a really strong sense of independence.
Yeah.
So I think I was really ready to, be on my own. I had a boyfriend at the time, so I was really excited to like see what that would look like outside of my house. Honestly, I was just really excited. I was definitely scared of like the transition to college and on like a school level, but I think living on my own, have been excited for it since I was like 12. So I think that it's just important to approach college with an open mind. I think having expectations of experience a lot of new things, and just being open-minded to taking in all the things around you and really giving yourself that time to like transition and figure out what works for you, like what your daily schedule looks like. And I think I just expected it to kind of click one day, and it kind of took me a while to figure out like college, there's a lot of freedom and there's a lot of free time. So you really have to learn how to balance your time with your social life and your family life for me and all of that. So that was definitely like one of the hardest things that like I had to learn.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned like open-mindedness because I know that like for you, like you were supposed to go to a different school. I was trying to go to a different school as well. This wasn't my plan. And coming into school, especially like when you really didn't 100% know your plan, like having the opportunity to just be like, you know what, I'm going in with an open mind because if you don't go in with an open mind, like you kind of set yourself up for failure almost in a way. Whenever you were like looking at housing and stuff, I know that you lived off campus all 4 years. How did you find your roommate?
Like I mentioned before, I had plans to go to a different school, so I had already had like my housing set up there. So when I decided that I wanted to stay here and go to UTSA, the housing was kind of limited. So my dad and I went around to some of the student living in the area to see who had like openings. And, we toured this one place. They had an open room. And so they could tell me like the ages of the people that had already been assigned to that room, but they couldn't tell me like anything else.
Yeah.
So I just kind of took a leap, and I knew they were all freshmen. So I was like, we're all going to be going through this.
Yeah, for sure.
Together. They're at least my age. So that's kind of how I found my housing. But I know that a lot of the student housing places around UTSA have roommate matching and all these things where you can fill out a questionnaire and they match you with people that have like similar preferences, similar age, groups and stuff like that. So
for sure.
There's definitely a lot of options, but that's how I found mine. But then they send you an email whenever they assign you to your apartment, and it lists your roommates and their information. So I reached out to them, I found their socials, and I was like, okay, like I'm excited, like they look cool. So I wasn't scared. They ended up being so sweet.
Going back to like living on your own, I know there are some like must-haves in my house. What are some must-haves for you with living on your own in your own house?
I would say my number one must have is my heater. Oh my god. My space heater. I don't go anywhere without that thing, but that's personal preference. Um, I just like when it's cold and I like to warm up. But also, I would say an air fryer. I think an air fryer is a saving grace. You can cook out anything in that thing. Especially when you're lazy, you don't want to turn the stove on or the oven or whatever. Sure. Yeah.
I think that's so funny that like you're just like, I need a space heater. Like that's my one thing.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, if it's comfortable for you, I definitely agree. Yeah. Did having roommates help you grow in certain aspects of your life that like maybe you didn't think like would?
For sure. I think this is such a loaded question because there's so many skills that you learn moving out and living with someone that came from a completely different household than you and grew up in a completely different environment. Um, I think the number one thing that I learned was communication. I think whenever you have roommates and you are establishing, expectations and boundaries and stuff like that, sometimes it can get rocky.
Yeah.
Especially if like said roommates are like your friend and like you don't want to like think that like your feelings are hurt or anything. Like I think I learned a lot about like confrontation and just like having mature conversations about living spaces when you're a roommate because their friendship is there, and so it was like being a roommate. And
Yeah. I think it's also really hard because like when you're living with family, those people, I mean, I would say like they kind of have to love you, even if they're messy or you don't cook good food. Like your family's still going to love you because it's your family. But then when you move in with roommates, it's like we're roommates. Don't necessarily have to love you. And like you do have to actually put in a lot of effort. And not that it's like difficult effort or anything like that, but it's more like there's a thought behind your actions and stuff like that. And it's something you definitely do have to figure out, but going in whenever you first become a roommate and like making sure that you're intentional with the things you do, how you are around the house, how you can be helpful, even if it's just like small things. I feel like that always makes a really big impact.
And also something to know is I think we're just so similar in the way that we like enjoy our home. So like when you're thinking about moving in with someone, I think it's really important to like have that conversation of like, how do you like to keep the house? Like, what are your expectations with like doing dishes and like stuff like that?
Yeah. Whenever roommates first move in with each other, do you think that there should be like a time period of where you kind of just like figure things out with your roommates? Or do you think like straight off the bat, like, should you be like, hey, this is what we need to do like from day?
Personally, I would approach it from day one, especially if I wasn't necessarily comfortable communicating with said roommates, because I feel like if you allow the space for things to build up or like you allow a problem to happen before you communicate your expectations, then said problem happens and then you have to confront them. Whereas you could just you know, set the boundaries on day one.
Yeah.
And then if they may know that and they may not like prevent it from happening, or you can relate it back to like being like, hey, we talked about this.
Yeah, for sure.
When we moved in.
I completely agree. I know we were talking about like setting boundaries and like how you want to like make a household with roommates living on your own for the first time. What conflicts have you experienced or you have heard like multiple people express to you? And like, how do you think is the best way to navigate one of those types of conflicts?
Ones that sticks out to me is the messy roommate.
Okay.
So I think that if someone prefers to have a cleaner home and prefers to have the dishes done all the time and like all of that, and then you move in with someone that does their dishes like every 2 days or like whatever the case may be, I feel like that's something that I've heard happen a lot. Like setting boundaries. If you've already previously talked about like side situation and like the behavior continues, you can try to talk to them again and provide some type of like compromise, because not everyone is going to be the same on that level of how they like live their life, and that's okay. But at the same time, I think it's important to be like respectful of your roommates and all of that. So I would just advise like have a conversation about it and try to compromise. Yeah. I also think it's important to remember that usually in student living, like you will have your own space.
Yeah.
So like in an apartment, like you have a common area, but like something that you do have control of is your space.
Yeah.
So that's something to like kind of take comfort in, is that you can always like retreat to your space and you have control over how clean that is and how you keep that. So
For sure. With roommates and navigating all the things that we've kind of talked about, do you think that that helped you navigate your relationships now, whether that's a friendship that maybe you're not even living with it or like a romantic relationship? Like, do you think having to navigate relationships with roommates has also gone into other aspects of your life in relationships?
I learned how to communicate with like almost like complete strangers, about kind of hard topics that aren't really fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But also I think just like learning to like live around other people and compromise with like their lifestyle versus your lifestyle is a really good lesson to learn too, because I think in any relationship that you start, like, no two people are the same. So it's important to like be able to adapt to other people and, really appreciate them for like the ways that they're different from you.
All right. So, last kind of question on this topic of living on your own and living with roommates and navigating those things. Are there any tips that we kind of didn't touch on or anything like that you think would be like helpful to the listeners?
Okay, my number one tip is invest in a good coffee maker. I am such a coffee enthusiast and I drink it every day. I don't know what I would do without it. So
One of the tips that I think I would give to someone in like starting their college career and living on them like their own, I would say start the habit of making your bed every single morning now. Like before you even move into college. And if you're already in college or living on your own, like start this habit after you watch this video, like go make your bed, because I bet you it's probably not made. It changed my life. It makes you feel productive and that translates into your whole day. So, and if you stay in bed, then you're not going to experience the fun things that college actually has in store, because college is what you make it. And people who don't realize that are the ones who are really bummed out. And like, it's like, dang, like, what did I do? And I'm like, I promise you, like, if you put in the effort of college and like living on your own and making it really fun, it's like, it's something you can really, really enjoy.
yes, I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for coming and speaking with all of our listeners and to me. It's always so fun to have you around, and I really loved it.
Love you.
I wanted to say thank you again for taking the time to join the conversation with Lifeline about living on your own and what it's like to have roommates in that transition. There's a lot of things that go unanswered, and there are a lot of things that you just have to figure out through personal experience. But one thing I really want to reiterate is you're not alone. Life and relationships are something that you have to figure out on a person by person basis, and you're honestly doing amazing. There is so much unknown when you move into different stages of life, and if you can get into a mindset where you are like, I am understanding that this may be a difficult time and I have these expectations and I'm really excited, but I'm ready to face whatever it may be, and I'm going to do it in the best way possible that I can, then honestly, I think you are really set up for success. So don't forget, give yourself kindness, give yourself patience, and also give that to others, because everybody's honestly just trying to not feel clueless, just like you are. Don't forget to click subscribe so you can follow along the Lifeline journey and stay afloat with me.